The champagne flute slipped in my hand when he laughed, the sound sharp enough to cut through the music and the low glow of crystal lights. My name is Claire Holloway, I'm 34. When did love start sounding like an expense he couldn't wait to write off? The laugh wasn't loud. That was worse. It was casual, practiced like he'd rehearsed it in meetings. His eyes flicked to my bare wrist where my gold bangles used to live, then back to his partner's. She's just emotional, he said, smiling. You know how they get. Someone chuckled. Someone else looked at the floor. I held the envelope tighter under my arm. Thin. Brown. Ordinary. Inside it, the receipts from the pawnshop still smelled faintly of metal and ink. I'd sold my mother's necklace, my graduation ring, the bracelet he bought me before the word business replaced my name. He'd promised it was temporary. He'd promised a future. The room felt colder after that. Or maybe it was the silence settling in my chest. The chair beside me looked like it was waiting, patient, accusing. I didn't sit. As the lights dimmed for the toast, I realized something quietly terrifying and calm washed over me. I wasn't standing there to be seen anymore. I was there to remember. The lights softened and his voice filled the room, confident, rehearsed, amplified. He talked about growth, sacrifice, vision. Words he'd borrowed from other men and stitched onto himself like a suit. I stood near the back, the envelope warm against my ribs. My scarf, blue, fraying at the edge, hung loose around my neck. I'd worn it the day I sold the jewelry. I wore it now. A small habit. A quiet witness. Someone brushed past me and whispered, "You okay?" It was Marlene from accounting. Her hand lingered on my elbow a second longer than necessary. I nodded. She didn't look convinced. On stage my husband raised his glass. The applause came on cue. I watched his mouth form my name, half joking, dismissive. Couldn't have done it without support at home, he said. Laughter again. Polite. Proved. Behind him the screen flickered as the technician tested the projector. White light. Then black. Then white again. My heart didn't race. It slowed. Each beat felt deliberate, like a countdown only I could hear. He leaned toward the mic, about to make a joke at my expense. I stepped forward before he could finish. The carpet muffled my footsteps. The room noticed me too late. I reached the table with the laptop. My fingers hovered over the trackpad. The scarf slipped from my shoulder and pooled on the floor like something shed. He turned, smiling, until he saw the envelope in my hand. He froze just for a heartbeat and then laughed. Claire, what? But the laughter faltered when I placed the envelope on the table, opening it slowly. Receipts, contracts, invoices, all meticulously marked, all tracing the money he'd claimed was his genius. Every loan he'd taken, every misused investment, every margin he'd hidden from the board, laid bare. My name is Claire Holloway, I whispered again, almost to myself. And I remember everything. The projector flickered and died, then roared back to life. One by one, the receipts and numbers filled the screen behind him. The partners leaned in. Some squinted. One of the senior managers let out a short, confused cough. The music had stopped somewhere between disbelief and dread. His hand trembled on the mic. This isn't. What are you? I let silence answer. No words. Just the paper, the light, the truth. My fingers brushed the edge of a receipt, the touch deliberate, measured. It felt electric, alive, accusing. People murmured, whispers threading through the air like a storm forming. He stepped back, then forward, then froze again. His perfect smile cracked, tiny at first, then spreading like a ripple. I felt the calm in my chest grow. This wasn't loud. This wasn't angry. This was inevitable. The room tilted around him, partners shifting uneasily in their seats, glasses forgotten, mouths opening and closing like fish out of water. Every eye tracked him, waiting for his brilliance, his charm, his excuse, but none came. I leaned against the table, the scarf pooled at my feet like a silent witness. My fingers traced the edge of a receipt as if it were a delicate blade. The paper smelled faintly of ink and metal, of patience, of proof. He opened his mouth again, this time sharper. Claire, this is truth, I said, voice calm, even deliberate. You called me an emotional fool. But emotions remember. Numbers don't lie. A hush fell. The board members murmured amongst themselves, disbelief turning to doubt, doubt settling into anger. Someone tapped a phone, someone whispered into a headset. I could hear the quiet clicks of confirmation, the shuffling of contracts being pulled from hidden drawers. His hands clenched at the podium. The laughter he had used to wound me earlier was gone, replaced by a tremor of panic he couldn't mask. The room smelled of perfume, sweat, and fear. And then I realized fully and without hesitation that the man who had built walls around himself, walls of charm, wit, and borrowed power, was standing in ruins, one paper at a time. He tried to recover with words, fast and slippery, a current he thought I'd be swept by. It's accounting errors. Miscommunication. This isn't. But the murmurs had grown louder. Partners scanned the receipts. Numbers didn't bend for charm. Numbers didn't forgive arrogance. I stepped closer. The edges of the papers brushed my fingertips like cold skin. I could hear the faint rustle over the rising tension in the room, the shuffle of shoes against carpet, the quiet intake of breaths. He glanced at me, panic sharpening his features, but I didn't look back. My eyes were on the reactions around him. Faces once friendly now etched with disbelief, betrayal, even quiet triumph. They were seeing him the way I had. Fragile, human, fallible. He stammered, reaching for a paper, but I shook my head. Not mine, I said. Yours. The projector flickered again, casting a pale glow on the numbers and my hand resting on the envelope. Every line a silent accusation. Every total a small, undeniable truth. Somewhere someone whispered, "How did she know?" And in that pause, that thin, suspended moment between accusation and revelation, I felt it, the cold, crystalline clarity of revenge. Not angry, not loud. Just absolute, inevitable. The room felt smaller. The air thick with the weight of what had been hidden and what was finally exposed. My husband's shoulders slumped, the confident posture he'd rehearsed for years collapsing under the quiet authority of truth. I watched him search the faces around him, pleading silently with eyes that could no longer charm. My fingers lingered on the envelope, feeling the ridges of each receipt like a heartbeat. The blue scarf at my feet trembled slightly as if it too understood the moment's gravity. "Claire, you can't," he started, but the words caught, swallowed by the collective realization of everyone present. Some partners whispered numbers to each other, confirmation, cross-checking, disbelief in their tone. I didn't speak again. Silence was sharper than any accusation I could have thrown. The hum of the projector, the soft scrape of chairs, the faint click of heels, it all marked the cadence of his unraveling. One partner finally looked at him and said softly but clearly, "We trusted you. This isn't acceptable." His jaw tightened and I saw it. The man who had belittled me, who had laughed at my sacrifices, was now exposed in the currency he had thought invincible: respect, trust, authority. And I felt it, the quiet, almost tender satisfaction of justice served. He backed toward the podium as if it could shield him, a child cornered by truth. His words stumbled over themselves, clumsy and fragile, desperate to rewrite reality, but the room didn't let him. The murmurs had grown into a low chorus of judgment. I stepped closer, each movement deliberate. My scarf brushed my ankle as I adjusted it, a small human gesture amidst the storm. The envelope lay open on the table, a silent monument to every promise he had broken, every word he had cheapened with laughter. "Claire," he whispered, voice barely audible. "This isn't fair." I let the word hang in the air, heavy and still. Fair. He had redefined that for himself years ago. I had only been patient enough to let the scales balance. Someone in the back cleared their throat, another tapped their pen against the table. Every sound amplified his isolation. The laughter he once commanded evaporated. My husband, once untouchable, now shivered under the scrutiny he had used to dismiss me. I leaned forward, calm, unshaken. My eyes met his. No hatred, only quiet inevitability. The receipts spoke. The numbers spoke. And in that room the truth had more power than he ever imagined. The air was thick with realization. The man who had mocked me was falling and I was simply watching. He slumped into the chair behind the podium, the weight of every glance and every whispered number pressing down. His voice, once commanding, was gone, replaced by ragged breaths and silent pleas that no one would answer. I stepped forward one last time, fingers brushing the top of the envelope. My scarf trailed behind me like a river of calm through the chaos. The projector's glow illuminated the receipts, the totals, the truth he had thought hidden forever. "My name is Claire Holloway," I whispered, softer now, almost reverent. "And I knew exactly who you were." The partners began murmuring agreements, nodding quietly, some shaking their heads, others exchanging solemn glances. The man who had belittled me, laughed at my sacrifices and called me an emotional fool, was being dismantled. Not with anger, not with noise, but with clarity, patience, and undeniable proof. He looked at me, and for a moment, I saw everything unravel in his eyes. Pride, arrogance, and charm all stripped away. No words could save him. No charm could rebuild what truth had undone. I turned away, leaving the envelope where it belonged. The room buzzed quietly with realization, justice unspoken but absolute. And in that stillness, I felt the final serene weight of victory.